Okay, let's continue. Okay, we'll go ahead and attach the event listener. So we'll load the master detail flow with the data. Uh, as far as I know, Windows emulator has some maybe a bug because switching between the landscape and portrait sometime it doesn't redraw the orientation. For that, you need to start an emulator which is having a API level 2.2, 2.3 something else, because the previous emulator worked perfectly and it doesn't have a orientation change problem. Maybe 4.0 also it will work. So let us see, once you start doing your exercise, you will come to know what kind of a strange situation we are going to see. But as far as 5.0, the latest one does not have a problem. For Mac, it is function and control F11. Of course, in Windows, you just function F11. If you hit, it will shift between uh, landscape and portrait. This for your emulator. If you are testing on the real device, you don't need to worry about that. So now, according to this exercise, the activity main, the layout file is different when a device is shift to a landscape mode. A portrait mode has only a image list fragment. For example, here, portrait mode, this layout only contains one single fragment called image list fragment, whereas the same in landscape folder, the same layout contains two fragments. So we need to know whether the fragment is present or not, and then accordingly we'll decide how to handle the callbacks. Handling callbacks, I think in the last exercise I gave a simple example using the interface to handle that. I also want to proceed in the same way. Same name I'm giving. What a name. Sorry. A single abstract method present. Just going to load a particular image whenever a list item is, I mean the list is clicked, list view is clicked, and let me implement that. Okay. So it is apparently we need to check whether the so-called event listener present here. This is to push the callback events to the main activity before we have to test whether the host activity contains the instance of a handle callback. In this case, it is true because it already contains an instance of a handle callback. So I can safely handle it. A list view here. So if required, I'll have one more on item click listener. That's it. So whenever a list item is clicked, it will give me a callback here. That callback has to be sent to the main activity. Okay, instead of this, of course, I need a image instance. I directly send the image instance instead of eight images. Instead of doing this, better I send the image itself. I'll slightly rename it for better. So okay, anyway, it is an image. Whenever a list item on the particular fragment where it has a list view, and when an item is clicked on it, this particular image, for example from a drawable directory, the ID would be passed to main activity, so it will come here. Two things I need to do. Before, I need to see is there any way I can set a image. I need to have a setter getter for attaching a specific image coming from another activity or a fragment. Image detail fragment. I have an image view here. Name what I gave. Main image. I only select the setters. This will make sure whatever resource ID you are sending will be attached. Set image resource. So this is for a detailed fragment. Now here I need to have a if else condition. I need to know whether the particular fragment is present or not. So a simple way, the name I gave image detail fragment, sorry. It will check if the particular fragment is present or not. So in the main activity, in the landscape alone, this particular fragment is present. So whenever a list item is clicked, I am verifying whether the particular activity contains a fragment called this ID. If the fragment is present, it will be not null. Otherwise, time to call a new activity. So now setting the detail fragment image. If a detail fragment is present, the value would be set. For safer side, I'm in landscape only because I know it will be present. Notice as I click, different fragments are getting loaded. Whereas I need to handle the callback. In this case, of course, the problem arises because the particular fragment is not present. To avoid this, what I can do, having the initialization block inside. It will check if such a fragment exists. If it is there only, it will typecast and try to access the inner methods. No, I don't have errors because such a fragment is not present in a portrait mode. But whereas when I shift to the landscape, I have no problem of loading that. So the point is, we have to search such a fragment exists or not. The fragment will only exist when device is in landscape mode. Otherwise, it won't be there. So we are not handling any callbacks if there is no such a fragment. If a fragment is there, it will load the image in the other fragment. Okay, what if the fragment is not present? How to handle it? Now I don't see any usage of having this part here. If required, I'll come back and initialize. Now there is no such a fragment. For example, detail fragment is not present. We can initialize a new activity and display the image in the other activity. So for that I need to create an activity. Image detail activity or whatever. I try action bar activity because I can put a back button. Okay, so we need a view for this. Same thing, I just try to modify the existing one because only one fragment is going to be activity detail. Instead of this, it's going to be image detail fragment. Set home as home as after enabled. So a kind of a back button. And this is for that course. Set content view dot layout detail. So this will make sure the new fragment is got enabled, or loaded in this activity. I may need a help of bundles. Okay. Initialize the particular fragment here. Get support. Fragment manager. Find view by find fragment by ID. And what's the name I gave? Page detail fragment. Okay, so bundle, maybe I'll hardcode as of now, or maybe why hardcode? We don't want that practice to come. Launch a new activity. So if particular fragment is not present, I need to handle callback toward launching a new activity. So this one will load this image detail activity. Here it will come and time to attach. Set image view, the incoming bundle, get int. Okay. Since we are using action bar, I need to implement the option menu callback. Sorry. Selected. Hitting back will finish the activity and go back to the main activity. Okay, time to define it in manifest. I already entered, I remember. Okay, so if at all it is not in a different directory, remove it. We have to shift to portrait. Alright, what's the problem? Okay. Null pointer exception. Something is throwing. Fine. Looks fine. For me, it looks fine. I don't see any problem. Let me try this block alone. Commented. What exactly going on? It is launching, but not with a different image. Same image alone. Let me see. Let me try one more time. Now it works. So I see a different look for portrait and for landscape. I can use this one. Problem will come. Now the error is coming. So we have to see some different fixes. Image view. Okay. Instead of doing this, few things. I have one more way to find out whether my particular view is in landscape or portrait. Get resources. Configuration orientation. Okay, so it's here. If that time the orientation is in landscape, we can take appropriate action. So instead of checking here, comment it required. So no issues now. So based on the what kind of orientation when the item is clicked, the specific fragment will be loaded. So I can move between them. One more condition I need to see. Chances are there when this user will suddenly, in this view, he may change the orientation. This part we should avoid because it is going to confuse much. Okay. First thing, the second activity should get closed if because this activity is only for portrait we have created. So what I can do here, going to the image detail activity, which is exclusive for uh, what do you call a portrait. If at all a configuration changes, one more way to find a configuration change, change configuration change. There is a method in the activity you can override. If the configuration, the new configuration orientation is, it became a landscape, I can force the activity to finish, return, I mean completely shut down this. This will make sure that further blocks or further callbacks won't happen. It will stop there itself. So if a user changes here, this activity, it's not closing. Configuration, landscape. Let me try one more time. I want this get closed. It's not changing. Okay, I need to find some other workaround in this case. First, I want to verify whether this block is called. Need to verify this block is called or not. It's I'm sure that block is called. This log may not be printing. Let us see. Toast is not popping. Configuration changed instead. Okay, instead of depending this, what I can do, I'll check here itself. Same block. If before attaching the view itself, If that's the case, it will finish and block all further callbacks. So this view won't load in a landscape mode. Got closed. So that won't load in the landscape mode itself. So I can easily switch between the images. What's the shortcut? I can have two orientations and switching them between. Shall we display the image names also? Because it's very highly difficult to see which image is loaded. Maybe I'll add the fix in the afternoon. The point here, what I'm trying to come here, assume the image 8 has got loaded. Now user wants to go back to landscape. I want to see 8th image loaded here. The selection always retained. I don't want to confuse the user which image he has got selected last. For example, in this case he has selected 3. Uh, this time of course only a list view he'll have, so he can select further choices. Maybe if he has selected 7, but now he goes back to a landscape, I want to have the same 7 is loaded here. So that we will see maybe after the lunch break. Of course, I'm going to use something which we have not even touched it, the saved instance. How I can save the instance of a particular view, or is there any way I can save some values when I switch between the orientation. This block will be called, and of course I can make use of and saving the last state of my UI. So that I will make use of it in order to retain the selection of an image. Maybe this list also I could make it as if list view single choice. So we can put a radio button also here, so the choice always remains same. Now I have a 6th image selected. Now if I move between different orientation, the 6th image should have been selected. So we have to make sure our state is retained when switching between the various I mean of course the two orientation, so landscape and portrait. But anyway, so far we have done I mean we have made our application to work in both orientation and with different look and feel. So that was possible with the help of fragments, because the fragment can handle the views as an object, so that the object can be loaded or unloaded in an activity. It's pretty easy. There are various ways still, but one of the easiest way I have pointed here. So you don't need to separately write a code if you are developing for enterprise applications such as banking or insurance, because we do not know whether the user will use a tablet or his phone. So having a fragments on board, you can give a customized look and feel for the end target device. Of course, I have various uh, folders I could create. I'll also let you know. Layout underscore large mean it will only load a particular screen width is having 820 and above pixel, maybe for high resolution. Layout large, layout small also you can create instead of depending on landscape and portrait. Uh, but of course you need to verify And of course you can also keep a different values folder, because you already know different landscape layout specific folder. You can also create uh, different values folder for the respective uh, layouts. So that also we can use it for identifying what kind of a view currently the device has loaded. You can see various options. Maybe the further exercise I'll continue after the break, lunch break. But I want you to finish this exercise before I go to a next level, because adding this block is not executed. I don't know. Maybe some configuration setup. I'll also find why it's not called. So the further part, you have to complete this exercise before proceeding. I'll put the source codes to a developer